chat with Carl about the new parts, and we're happy that they've been integrated into the car okay. With any luck, you'll be able to feel the improvement, so give them a try.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Career Mode, episode number 8 for round 7, the Canadian Grand Prix. And g'day. Yeah, round 7, the Canadian Grand Prix, and as you just heard from Jeff there, we have some upgrades for this weekend. So we also have a new objective to complete 8 practice programs. That's ridiculously easy to do. But here's the upgrade: the rear wing upper flap. We has a major upgrade, that is, so that will really help us to stabilize the car, and we shouldn't have any of the issues we had in practice in Monaco of almost crashing in the tunnel. But looking at the weather, it's raining towards the end of the race, heavy rain, so that could mix it up. But then we get this email. Mark, you asked me to keep an ear out for news on Devon. I'm hearing that the SP Score Racing Point Formula 1 team are very interested in him at the moment. I don't know if he's actively pursuing negotiations with them, but he's coming up a lot in conversation at their offices. Make of that what you will. So that's not good news, but we can't worry about that too much because we have a race weekend to get on with. So let's get moving with that. Looking at the upgrades quickly though, since this is the first video in my career mode recorded after the performance patch, you can see Mercedes obviously have a bit of a boost, and they have quite a lead now. There's obviously still a big gulf between the top 3 and everyone else. Williams are a long way back, and McLaren and Renault have sort of swapped around. But looking at where our car makes its speed, we have a relatively good aerodynamic package now. We're sort of in right in the middle, but we have been absolutely screwed on the chassis side. The third to worst chassis behind Toro Rosso now, and that's even with one upgrade on that side, so that is really not helpful. But that's sort of thrown my entire development plan for the season out the window. We have to now work on the chassis, but anyway. Overall though, the car is still pretty decent, so we should be in for a pretty good qualifying session here in Canada, so let's get on with that.
Hello and welcome from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, home to the Canadian Grand Prix, for today's qualifying session. In 1999, the outside track wall, situated on the last corner of the lap, ended the race of 3 Formula 1 world champions: Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve. Since then, the wall has come to be known to fans around the world as the infamous Wall of Champions.
Turns 13 and 14 are definitely the most demanding corners on the track. A quick chicane section, entering at over 180 miles per hour, drivers use plenty of curb and get very close to the wall. But hitting those curbs at the wrong angle can easily put the car offline. You'll see a lot of drivers bail out of committing into turn 13, using the escape road to avoid contact with the wall.
When it comes to getting lap time out of this circuit, it's traditionally been about maximising top speed. Do you simply remove as much downforce as possible, hang on in the corners and max out down the straights?
The teams will have arrived with all manner of parts designed to capitalise on the long straights. The cars will be that much harder to drive in the corners, but everyone will be in the same boat.
So if you're wondering why that cutscene was a bit weird, it's because some of it was stolen from the practice cutscene. But anyway, it was just a bit more interesting with some track information rather than just the standard qualifying intro. But that's why I did that. But anyway, let's get out on track and try and set a lap time. But as we come out of pit lane, we've got a car ahead of us. I think it's one of the Renaults, and hopefully he won't hold us up on our qualifying lap. We should be in a similar speed car, so I don't think we'll have any troubles. But just something to consider anyway. But as we get onto the back straight, we kind of find ourselves right behind him, so I decided to overtake him. I'm not sure why his outlap is so slow, but going into the Wall of Champions chicane, I kind of missed the mark there and did not start my lap very well. And Hulkenberg's actually got a bit of a run in, and he's going to try to overtake me on a qualifying lap down the inside, actually gets a wheel ahead, and we bang wheels through the first corner, but thankfully he backs out through the second corner and we can get on with our qualifying lap. But that's already compromised our efforts, but hopefully we'll still be able to make it up the time through the rest of the lap and get through, but make a little mistake there, and the rest of the lap isn't really coming together very well. That's a very tricky corner to try and get out of too compared to the AI, and as we come towards the line, get two wheels in the grass as well. Not really paying much attention there. Swipe across in front of Hulkenberg, not very happy with him there, and we need to go again because I don't think that lap will be good enough. He lets us past again on the in lap, and then bang, rear ends us into the pit lane, and we get a penalty for that. And I'm looking to see, and that was for the collision, not for speeding in pit lane, so we were stopped in time for that. But he has given us both a 5 grid spot penalty. Here's the onboard from Hulkenberg. He slows down, lets us past, and then as he comes into pit lane, smashes into the back of us. He's going way too fast. He was never going to stop. And that is a big mistake from Hulkenberg there. You can see the end plate there flying off on the right side, just on the inside of the wheel there. And I have no idea what that was about, but Hulkenberg clearly not very happy. I mean, of course he is my rival, but anyway.
Complete. Mechanics, please stand clear. We're ready to go.
I have no idea what all that was about, but yeah, not good. But anyways, we come out of pits. I see a Renault going past again, and I can only hope that it's not Hulkenberg. We're on the same set of tyres, so they are slightly scrubbed, but we need to get a good lap time, and as we catch up to the Renault, it's Ricciardo this time, and we muscle our way past to start our, well, not start the lap, we're at the hairpin. This time we will be able to start our lap uncompromised and get through that chicane much nicer this time, and we can get on with our lap. We've got no traffic, nothing ahead or behind, and we only have to contend with some slightly worn tyres, but I think it should be enough to be able to get through into the next session if we can get through the lap. So we move on to the end of the lap and cross the line. What sort of time can we do? P5. Wow, that was that's a crazy time on scrub tyres. And we look, and Sergio Perez gets P6, so the car has some very, very good pace. We actually got a nice, we actually got a nice lap in there. But looking at who we beat Pierre Gasly, who was on the mediums, Leclerc on the softs, actually a whole lot of cars on the mediums, with Bottas, Vettel and Hamilton on mediums as well, Verstappen on softs, not being able to beat Hamilton on the mediums, so the Red Bulls clearly lacking a bit of pace, and Leclerc clearly didn't get his lap in the way he wanted to as well. But looking at who's knocked out, it's Daniel Ricciardo 16th, followed by Roman Grosjean, Lando Norris a long way down, Robert Kubica and Danny Kvyat starting in last. Alright, so here we are for Q2. So we still have 2 sets of soft tyres available as we managed to do that second lap in Q1 on the same set. So let's go out and see what we can achieve in Q2. And spoiler alert, this is actually the best lap I managed of the entire weekend. Tiny bit wide on the exit of that corner, but not too bad. Missed the apex of the next chicane and cut the second half a little bit, so probably lost a bit, gained a bit there. Probably didn't really affect the overall lap time too much. Got a really nice run through the start of the second sector, which makes a nice change because I've had a lot of trouble with those corners in the past and in the last game. Through towards the end of the second sector, had to back out on that corner just a little bit to avoid hitting the wall, but still not a bad sector. And as we come around the hairpin, missing the apex slightly, but it probably won't affect our time too much. and then we get a nice tow along the back straight from Lewis Hamilton up ahead, doing me a huge favour here. You can see the speed we're gaining versus Hamilton up ahead, and getting the braking just about right. Maybe cut that corner a little bit, but I wasn't sure what Hamilton was going to do, so I was ready to take avoiding action. And as we cross the line,
Good job.
we go P1, thanks to the tow and the fact that not everyone has set lap times yet. So we move to the end of the session, and that lap stays in P4, but Sergio Perez gets knocked out by Max Verstappen down in 10th. So that is very unusual to see. So Sergio Perez will be starting P11, then it'll be Albon, Giovinazzi, Lucas Weber not having a good qualifying, and George Russell down in 15th. Nico Hülkenberg is also through as well, so this will still be a not a bad starting position for either of us, but yeah, I'm still questioning what he was doing in Q1. But anyway, Q3 now, and on this lap, let's see what we can achieve through the hairpin. And I knew I was going in deep, so I turned in quite early and made the corner not too bad, but that did cost a bit of time. So as we come towards the finish line through the last World Champions section, we'll see what we can do. Coming towards the line now, DRS open, and what can we achieve? 1 minute 11.2, and that sits us P4 at the moment. Hamilton, Bottas and Leclerc ahead.
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top three today. Hamilton, Bottas and Charles Leclerc. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
And as we go to the results screen, fast forwarding through the rest of the session, we end up P5, ahead of Max Verstappen, ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, who actually had a very good qualifying, all things considered, and he'll only be starting a few spots back from me after we both get our penalties, as well as then Kimi Räikkönen, Pierre Gasly, and Devon Butler down in 10th. But really not a good race, not a good qualifying by the Red Bulls. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll be starting in P10, so let's go.
Good day today. Let's have your take on it. It's got to be a relief to qualify that far up the grid.
Yeah, it's after the penalty I was a little bit worried about where we'd be starting, but we've had a good qualifying and we've minimised the loss today, so I'm thankful for that, and we'll just try to have a good race, and I think we can still gain some positions as well.
How's your grid penalty going to affect your strategy going into the race?
So like I said, we've minimised the loss, but I think we'll be able to do some overtaking. We've got good straight line speed, and yeah, I think we won't be doing anything crazy.
There was some contact between you two. What happened out there?
I've got no idea. It's just qualifying silliness.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks. So a little bit of an awkward interview there, but oh well, you have these days sometimes.
So, unfortunately, we've picked up some grid penalties, and we'll be starting further back than you expect. As for how bad it is, that'll depend on what the other drivers get.
Thanks, Jeff. So a minimum starting position of P10, maybe 9th, depending on how the penalties get counted back. As you know, the weird things that happen with penalties with multiple cars, sometimes 5 grid spots sort of become 4. A bit like, say, Hamilton in Austria, I believe. But anyway, we'll find out when we go to the grid for the Canadian Grand Prix.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. It's one of the fastest races of the season here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, with around 60% of this 2.7-mile circuit taken at full throttle. There are 14 corners to navigate, the very last of which has its very own infamous history. Could be the cause of a safety car today. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's start with Racing Point. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Vettel, Max Verstappen, and Raikkonen, Gasly, Butler, the scientist, and Sergio Perez. Albon, Hulkenberg, they've taken a grid penalty. Antonio Giovinazzi, and Faber, Russell, Ricciardo, Roman Grosjean, and Lando Norris. Kubica and Daniel Kvyat completes the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
After the points finish last race, let's aim to keep the momentum going.
Alright, I think we can have a decent race here, still starting P9 like I said. And looking at the strategy, definitely going with the top strategy, not doing 2 stints on the softs at the start. That's just out of the question for me at this point. I'm not enjoying the temperature controls that you sort of need to run the soft tyres in this game, so I'll just be doing the 1 stint, getting off of those tyres as soon as possible, and getting onto the mediums for the rest of the race. But that will depend on when the rain comes as well. So
Okay, our system checks are good. We need to stay in formation and start bringing the car up to temperature, please. Get some load into the tyres and work the brakes. We want them nice and warm by the end of the lap.
Cheers for the interruption. So the rain could throw a spanner in the works for the strategy. Maybe the second medium tyre stint I might change to the softs to, I don't know, maybe have a run at the fastest lap or something just before the rain hits. But we'll find out. We've got to find out when the rain hits compared to when that stop is. If the rain hits at all, you never know. Maybe it will never come. But anyway, here we are lining up to the grid for the Canadian Grand Prix.
Keep an eye on the lights. The start sequence will begin as soon as the grid is formed. Be ready with the clutch.
Alright, here we go. 5 red lights. And away we go for the Canadian Grand Prix. And it's actually been a brilliant start by Devon Butler there, going wheel to wheel with Pierre Gasly. They're both down the inside of Kimi Raikkonen, and I'm joining in the party as well. Gasly trying to go around the outside of Verstappen in turn 2, and Devon Butler passes me on the inside there. Kimi Raikkonen has done the bunch of spots at the start, 3 or 4, and he's down to 9th. But I've got a bit of a run on Devon here, trying to go to the inside, but that space was never going to stay, and I decided to back out of that to avoid a inevitable incident if I tried to go for that gap. But we move on to the back straight. I've got a run on Devon, but nothing I could really do there, so I'm just going to have to follow through for a little bit longer and try something later on. But Sergio Perez has actually taken advantage of the silliness at the start and has gotten ahead of Kimi Raikkonen as well. So a good start by Perez up to P9, P8 for myself, P7 for Devon Butler, and I think the top 6 are 2 Mercedes, 2 Ferraris and 2 Red Bulls. But I'm not entirely sure which order, but we're not focused on them at the moment. We need to focus on our own race, and that starts with getting past Devon Butler.
Great work. That's a new fastest lap for the race.
Down the inside of the first corner, maybe running him a little bit wide there, but doesn't matter. We get the position, and that is us up into P7, the best of the rest position. But I think we can get more in this race. The Red Bulls have had a lack of pace all weekend. Myself and Sergio have been faster than the Red Bulls all weekend, and I think we can aim for a P5 at minimum here. So let's find out if we can take the fight to them. But they're actually in a bit of a train at the moment, with the 2 Mercedes actually seeming to hold up the field a little bit here, so that's interesting to see. I'm not entirely sure why, but you can see I've made a bit of a series of mistakes here, and I'm quite slow on the exit here. Devon Butler is right behind me, so we're going to have to defend into this chicane coming up here. Devin Butler goes to the outside. We're going to just try and hold the inside and take the racing line, and he's forced to slow down, and he may actually be under fire from Sergio Perez. Here's the onboard from Sergio, and he was unable to take advantage of that. But as you look into the top left corner now, you can see that they're battling and looking backwards as well to see what's going on. And Sergio Perez is actually now ahead, so he was able to make the most of Devin Butler's bad exit out of the chicane, and he has followed me through there up into P8. So we move on now to the end of lap 5, start of lap 6, and I decide here to let Sergio Perez pass. He's got more pace than I do at this point. My tyres are overheating as usual on the softs, and I just decided to let him go and see what pace he can extract from the car, and I just hope that maybe he can take the fight to the Red Bulls today, because, or at least for the first half of this race, because as you can see, I've really dropped off from that lead pack, and yeah, I've just got nothing for them at the moment.
Some information on Perez. They're slowing down. It seems like there's some kind of problem with their car.
Are you serious? I just let him past, and now he's got an issue. So hopefully he'll let me back past just as easy as I let him past. But anyway, we'll see if he is willing to be a good teammate, as we actually have a really good run out of the last corner, but we're not really close enough, except he locks up right in front of me. So clearly he's still pushing the limits with whatever issue he has.
Okay, the car behind is catching you by 5/10 a lap. 5/10.
And Devin Butler is catching up, so we have to get a move on. And I think the best plan will be if I can get past him, and then hopefully he can hold up Devin for me and try just to keep him back, and hopefully that will secure a good position for us in this race. But that's only if Sergio Perez is willing to play the game and let me pass. We go for a move, but I had the feeling he was going to turn in, so I took the shortcut and backed out of it to make sure we didn't.
You're in the top 10 now. Keep it up.
To make sure we didn't make contact. But this is turning into quite a battle with Sergio. I just can't get past him. He's certainly not letting me past. So maybe Devin Butler was right in forming. Well, here's Charles Leclerc. What's going on with him? His engine is breathing heavily, and he's slowing down significantly, and he is out of this race with a mechanical failure. But Devin Butler has actually overtaken us amidst all that, but we dive bomb in at the Wall of Champions chicane and get back ahead. But that's how much Sergio Perez has been holding me up.
You're dropping a second a lap to the car behind. 1 second.
And yes, Devin is very speedy at the moment. But what I was saying, maybe Devin was right in the F2 career mode. Maybe a teammate wouldn't let me past if he had a mechanical issue.
I know that wasn't easy letting me pass, but it was the right choice. It was good driving.
Yeah, that's how I describe it, mate. Just good, not great. He's either very clever or you're just a pushover. You really think if the situation was reversed, he'd do the same for you? No. You want to start looking out for yourself. No one else will.
But anyway, we don't care about what Devin has to say, even if it's true. But anyway, let's try to prove him wrong. We'll get past Perez, and I'll hope Perez can hold him up.
Caution.
And there's a caution here, a yellow flag, and I could not for the life of me figure out why there was a yellow flag here. And thinking about it now, I think it's for Leclerc, but by the time we got there his car had disappeared, so which is why I couldn't find a reason for the caution. But anyway, we finally get a good run out of the final corner, and we're going to try and go past Perez on the outside into turn 1, and we might just be able to get that done. Very close with Perez there. He almost wiped across in front of me and took off the front wing, which could have been a bit awkward, but we managed to navigate that. And I was hoping he could hold up Devin for a bit, but Butler made the most of that and has gotten through as well, so that's not happening. But anyway,
The car in front is 7.0 seconds.
that's unfortunate.
They're speeding up again, so I expect they fixed whatever the problem was.
Are you kidding me? So we just got past Sergio Perez, and his issue has now been resolved, and he's probably running at full pace again. So it's good for him, obviously. He'll be able to get a move on, hopefully get back into this race. But that's very annoying that he held us up for so long, and now his issue has been resolved.
Okay, some information on Perez. They seem to have an issue.
Why is that a thing? Why did that just what yeah, why is just why just why? So I'm just going to ignore Sergio Perez and hope he doesn't get in the way for the rest of this race.
Okay, we think the effects of the tyre deg are going to kick in soon. We should be alright for the time being, but you will start to find it a bit more slippery out there. Okay, gap ahead is 2.8 seconds. Gap to teammate behind is 6.3 seconds.
Alright, thanks for all that radio, Jeff. I really pay attention to every
The
word.
car behind's tyres are in much better condition than yours. We'll keep an eye on the times.
Yeah, the car behind is Bottas. I don't care, he's on a completely different...
You want to pit this lap, so push now.
He's in another league to our car at the moment, so I don't really care what he does. And we let him pass around the outside of that corner, much like Devin Butler tried to do right back near the start of the race, but
Okay, remember to pit this lap.
but he actually blocks into the hairpin, which is strange, considering how much more downforce that car has and how much better it is in every way, just about, including being on better tyres, why he felt the need to defend there. But anyway, we're actually catching up to him quite awkwardly, but thankfully he moves across so we can get into pit lane cleanly and get our pit stop done. And it was very helpful from Bottas there. But anyway, we as we're coming to the pit stop, this is the biggest mistake I made in the entire race. I looked at the strategy for a moment and then decided to use a flashback to record the tyre change smoothly without pausing it halfway through, and I get a penalty.
Complete, go now.
Speeding in pit lane. Why? How? Just
Only one stop to go. One stop left in this strategy.
why? Why is that a thing? Why has that happened? I don't know, but it's happened again since in another episode of Career Mode in Future, and I managed to fix it that time by just flashbacking again to the same point, and it didn't give me the penalty the second time. But it's just some weird glitch. I don't know what it is, but I didn't know about it at this time, how to fix it, and to be completely honest, I didn't even notice the penalty until I had to serve it later in the race.
That brings you up a place.
But get past Albon while I'm talking about the penalty, and now trying to get past Giovinazzi around the outside, trying to do a Takuma Sato move. But on Alonso, that was back in the day.
We think we may see some rain. ETA is about 15 minutes. Dries seem like the fastest tyre at the moment.
And we have fast cars behind us, but everything is a bit of a mess at the moment in strategy land. I'm not sure how many stops anyone's doing, I'm not sure how many stops I'm doing, so I'm just going as fast as possible, and if the rain comes on this set of tyres, I'll pit for inters. If I need to go onto another set of tyres, it will probably be the softs, so I can go for the fastest lap, because the rain is coming quite a lot earlier than I might have thought. But anyway, he actually make a bit of a mistake there, run wide, and Verstappen gets through there, and we actually have a run on the exit though, with quite a bit of extra speed, very straight exit, since we ran so wide. But look at the straight line speed of that Red Bull. He's obviously got his engine turned up a lot more than I have, and now actually that is Devin Butler behind us now. But anyway, I'm thinking around this time that with the rain coming, I could definitely pit onto softs at some point as Devin Butler gets past us, and I think I could get onto the softs.
Rain is forecast in just over 10 minutes time. Rain in 10 minutes.
Quite soon, in a couple of laps time, and I should be able to get a fastest lap in.
One stop to go. One stop left in this strategy. Pit window opens in 12 laps time. 12 laps.
The pit window's still a long way off, but I think I should be able to get a fastest lap in as Devon pits, and watching where he was slowing down, I completely missed the corner. But anyway.
Roger that. Soft tyres at the next pit stop.
There's the change to soft tyres on the strategy, and you can see it's maybe starting to get a little bit darker, a little bit less sun on the track, and this is sort of the indication I'm looking for to come in for the soft tyres.
So far is a 1 minute 15.1. Currently the fastest lap is a 1:14.0.
So I need to be a second faster to get the fastest lap.
Right, come in at the end of this lap.
I'm going to stop at the end of this lap, and if I can do a lap a second faster, which should be achievable going from the mediums,
You've lost some time to the car behind.
which my fastest lap is currently set on, and that was a long time ago when the fuel was a lot heavier. But Lewis Hamilton goes and makes that job harder with a new fastest lap.
Hamilton has the lead. The fastest lap at this point in time is a 1 minute 13.8.
So 13.8, so it's only 2/10 faster than it was, so I think we can still achieve it. But we'll have to see as we come into pit stop now for the second time, and we will have to serve that 5-second penalty, which like I said I was unaware of. So you can see I'm quite angry here, revving the engine, because that's about all you can do. And finally get underway, and here I go looking at the race director, and there it is, speeding in pit lane. And that was the moment I sort of realised that I had that penalty. But anyway, it's served now, it's out the way, we can get back on with the race, and it has actually cost us a position, potentially, because that is...
to consider switching to a lower fuel mix. We may not finish on the current settings.
That is Roman Grosjean in front of us, and I haven't even seen him all race. I have to stop saying Romain, not Roman. But anyway, we get past him, and we can get a clean start to our lap.
Gap to teammate ahead is 9.4 seconds.
We are really aggressive through the first few corners, carrying quite a lot of speed through there, and
The car
getting...
behind is dropping back. We're seeing a gap form.
Jeff, I'm trying to commentate the fastest lap attempt here. But anyway, we get a nice run through the first sector, nailing most of the apexes through there. This is probably one of the hardest to get right, but we get through there well enough, and we are purple to the first sector as well, which is what you need to see to get a fastest lap through these very tricky corners, and probably getting through there better than what I did in qualifying. And as we head towards the end of the second sector, we get our next indication.
Around 2 seconds.
2 seconds for the car ahead, so we've got some space. But we are green to the second sector, so we have all the indications of a fastest lap here, as we are now in the final sector, heading towards the final 2 corners, the Wall of Champions chicane, and trying to get through there as cleanly as possible, late on the brakes through the chicane, and getting those apexes right. A bit of a wobble on the exit, but straight towards the finish line now, down the middle of the road, and we do get another fastest lap. It's a 13.2. We've absolutely smashed it by 6/10, I believe that is. So no one should be able to beat that, because the rain is coming very, very soon. So I think that fastest lap will be safe unless someone goes for the fastest lap right now, basically. But as we move on, we've caught up to Kimi Raikkonen, but we're having a little bit of issues to actually trying to overtake him. So I actually went for this fastest lap attempt on the assumption that I'll be able to get the positions back that I lost with the fresh tyres. But you can see the spots on the windscreen, the camera lens, whatever this thing is, now, and the rain is here, so our fastest lap is safe. No one will set a faster lap now that the track's getting wet, and it'll be wet for the rest of the race. So with the rain due to get heavier.
Trailing our teammate by 5.4 seconds.
But eventually I do manage to get past Kimi Raikkonen down the inside of the first corner, and get that move done. up into 9th place. The next car ahead is Lucas Weber, who I haven't really seen too much of this race, but he's been trucking along pretty well after a bad qualifying, and he's up into the top 10 now. So as we go through the hairpin, we run a little bit wide, but that shouldn't compromise our line and our exit too much.
Okay, we'll fit inters on your next stop.
And I'm ready for the intermediate tyres now, because the track is too wet. That's why we ran wide on that corner. And we've got Kimi Raikkonen behind us, so it's a race of the pit crews.
Go now.
And Kimi Raikkonen's pit crew were faster.
They've got a serious car issue. It looks like they're retiring. Some information on Hulkenberg. No.
Oh, Hulkenberg is out of the race with a mechanical issue. It hasn't come up on the race director yet, which is what I was looking for there. But as we look on the replay, he is travelling very slowly through the final corner, and he will park up maybe at the first corner, and that is Nico Hulkenberg out of this race. Let's try to make the most of these intermediate conditions. I think we've got onto the inters at the right time. We'll go back to 10th with Kimi Raikkonen ahead of us. There's the yellow.
Caution, yellow flags ahead. No overtaking through the caution zone. Be careful until you see the greens.
There's the yellow flags for Hulkenberg.
The gap behind is 7.1 seconds.
Out of the race there.
Light rain transition into heavy within 15 minutes time.
And the heavy rain will be hitting in 15 minutes, so the full wet tyres may be required in this, but we'll see. And you can see already that the rain is just getting heavier and heavier, and the spray is almost opaque at this point, as we're following a little bit of a train, and the sky, the sort of atmosphere is very, very dark now, and the visibility is quite bad. So overtakes are going to be very, very difficult to make at this point, but we'll try our best to keep it together, and hopefully we can pull a good result out. We're P10 at the moment, and I want to try to get back maybe into the top 5 or 6, and I would call the fastest lap attempt worth it. But anyway, we'll go down the inside of Kimi Raikkonen at the hairpin, and managed to get that done quite well. We did come from a long way back, but thankfully he left us the space there, and we were able to get through without any issues.
Heavy rain arriving within 5 minutes time.
The light continues to fade. It gets darker and darker as we almost run into the back of Lucas Weber under brakes there. Thankfully the McLaren is a very brightly coloured car, otherwise I don't think we'd be able to see it at all. You can barely see the lights on the back of them. But anyway, we go for a move to the inside of the chicane, and we just get through there. That was very, very tight and very sketchy in these wet conditions.
Keep managing your tyres. Manage your tyres.
And we move on. We try and go around the outside of Verstappen through the chicane.
Nice work. That brings you up a place.
And I was going to actually let him back past, because we did go off track a little bit there, but unfortunately he got blue flagged, so I was not able to do that. But anyway, we didn't get in trouble for an illegal overtake, so it's fine. But we move on, and Lewis Hamilton, as I've been trying to keep up with him, has caught up to Sergio Perez, and Perez very slow through those corners as he's letting Hamilton past, and I had to take some avoiding action off track, but I managed to get alongside and down the inside and take that position. And again, I'm not 100% sure if that's a fully legal pass, but the game let me get away with it, so I will that will be fine for now, as we have a look on the onboard from Sergio Perez, and he didn't make that too difficult. We have more pace at this point in the race, and it's fine. So now we look back, and we've got Verstappen right behind us, putting the pressure on, but we managed to hold it through on that occasion. But he's pushing quite hard in these conditions. He's obviously very good in the wet in that Red Bull car. But I'm trying to focus on Gasly and catch up to him, but Verstappen's making that difficult. and forcing me into a couple of mistakes and unusual lines every now and again when I'm trying to defend.
You coping okay in this weather? We're watching the amount of standing water on the road. For now, we think it's safe to stay with the Inter.
And Jeff there indicating that the wet tyres, full wet tyres, could be coming soon, but not quite yet at this point. But the rain is definitely getting heavier. But anyway, we move on, and we are going to make an almighty dive on Gasly. Absolutely ridiculous distance behind. But somehow
Hamilton's in first place.
we managed to make that work. I'm not sure Gasly will be particularly happy about that one.
That this heavy rain will be with us for a while now.
And the heavy rain not going anywhere. But not even a warning for that, so that was interesting. So anyway, this is Lucas Weber down the inside of Kimi Raikkonen, I think that is. And he makes a bit of a mess of that. And this is later on Kimi Raikkonen trying to make the same move on the car ahead of him. And that's Lucas Weber who just hit his front wheel there. And we'll have a look from Lucas Weber's perspective. And that was a little bit clumsy there from Lucas. I'm not entirely sure what either of those two incidents just were. But
we're reaching the point where you're going to start aquaplaning with those tyres. We think you're alright for now, but it might not be long before we switch to the full wets.
Lucas Weber is now out of the race.
These conditions don't look like they're shifting. We're predicting at least 20 minutes of heavy rainfall. Inters and wets will probably have similar pace at the moment.
So heavy wet tyres, full wet tyres are coming soon, but with 3 laps to go.
P5. Butler is ahead of you. Okay. Gap ahead is 10.5 seconds. They're on old Inters. Sergio behind. The gap behind us is 7.8 seconds. They're on old Inters. The pit window is open. Pit window currently open. 4 laps remaining.
And with 3 laps to go since we're a lap down, there's a world of space around us. There's no point in pitting for the full wets. We're just going to finish the race with the tyres we've got. Got a blue flag, and we'll deal with that in just a moment. But,
We're leading our teammate by 5.0 seconds.
we move on now to the final lap. We're in P5, so with just Devon Butler ahead. So I think that fastest lap attempt may have just been worth it. Maybe we could have got P4 without it, but it'd be very close.
Gap to car in front is 13.4 seconds.
I mean, Butler's 13 seconds ahead. We would have obviously lost a good 20 seconds with that extra pit stop, but we would have also gained quite a bit with the soft tyres, so it's 50-50 whether it was worth it or not.
There's only 1 lap of fuel remaining.
We're on the last lap, Jeff, I don't care. So anyway, as we come through to start the last sector for the final time, lap 69, and around the hairpin, we've got no cars around us really in this last phase. It's sort of just been cruising home, not making any mistakes, and getting a car to the end of the race. And to do that, we've got 2 corners left, one being the Wall of Champions, and we go through that chicane for the final time and towards the finish line to finish P5 in the Canadian Grand Prix, the team's home race.
Alright, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
So Mercedes have won it, and what a great race it was. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, they clearly have a car that comes alive in the kind of conditions we were dealing with today. It's a very balanced package in the wet, and what that means is that the drivers have confidence to attack. And having that confidence gets you on the power earlier, it lets you brake later, and can put you a long way up the road.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
So Lewis Hamilton is the race winner. You can tell by all the chanting in the crowd. But anyway, Valtteri Bottas second and Sebastian Vettel third. So basically the starting grid, Leclerc with a DNF from third on the grid actually.
So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. Lewis Hamilton takes the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Now, let's discuss, Ants. Who would you say is a contender for Driver of the Day?
Roman Grosjean's my driver of the day. I don't think I've ever seen such a strong performance from him.
Let's move on to the Constructors. It was a tough race for our championship leaders who lose ground at the top of the table. Another team that will be satisfied with this Grand Prix is Alfa Romeo, whose good result moves them further up the championship. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for the next one.
So the top three are league of their own throughout this entire race. Grosjean with the driver of the day going from 17th on the grid to 8th. Brilliant race by him. And by Devon Butler, to be fair, up to 4th position from, I'm going to say 8th maybe, or thereabouts. But anyway, looking at the race director, a couple of incidents there. Obviously, the speeding in pit lane is the one that stands out. We will have a quick look at the rest of the results. Robert Kubica actually had a really good race, ended up 13th. Sergio Perez obviously ended up 6th, so a nice race by him.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. Not a good race for Lucas. How do you think he'll be feeling about not finishing?
Yeah, I saw a replay of it, and it was just a bit of a silly mistake. It was obviously very tricky conditions out there today, and he won't be too happy about it, but he's a good racer. He'll be able to move on from it, learn from it, and he'll be back stronger for the next race in France, I think.
You've had experience with Devon's fast, aggressive style. Any advice for the drivers he passed today?
You just have to race him the same way he races you. He's obviously a very aggressive driver, and he doesn't really leave anything on the table. He's 100% all the time, and you just have to race him in the same way.
You and Devon weren't far apart by the end of the race. How evenly matched are you?
Yeah, I think we are evenly matched. We obviously have very similar cars in terms of lap speed, and yeah, I'm having a lot of fun battling with him over the past few races in this season.
You were cutting your way through the field during the race.
Yeah, obviously we were penalised below where we should be on the starting grid after the qualifying incident, but yeah, we were able to make up for it during the race. It was a lot of fun.
Great. Well, that's everything.
Thanks, Claire. Alright, so looking at the rivalries now. We have started a new one with Perez this weekend, and we extend an early lead in that one, and pull ahead of Hulkenberg, as he obviously had a DNF for this one, so not a lot of points for him. But speaking of points, we have some resource points here. A good 1406 to get some more upgrades onto the car. So they will come in very handy. Let's see what we can do in the R&D trees in just a moment. So we'll have a look at the emails. Carl, pretty happy with the weekend as a whole. And here we go. Here's Lucas Weber. I'll leave it on the screen if you want to read that. I'm not going to read it. That takes way too long. Devon Butler's. Alright, so looking at the R&D now. We have a lot of work to do on the chassis side, thanks to the performance patch. I'm thinking instead of focusing on the chassis, I'll get this last minor rear wing upgrade on the car, just to get it balanced out, because it still was a little bit pointy in that race. It wasn't anywhere near like it was in Monaco, but it was a little bit sketchy in the rain. I just want to completely balance out the car to the way it should be, and that will that upgrade should do just that. And I will actually in fact do the department efficiency upgrade on that side, on the chassis side as well, to make those upgrades cheaper in future. So we have a minor upgrade coming for the French Grand Prix. I'll see you then.
Engine off, engine off.